Hello friends, family and other creatures of the sea, and welcome to a professional StarCraft 2 match. Today we have an interesting story on how we got the replay. Usually I look around for any good games. I have to ask people for replays. Hey, did you play any good ladder games? Or I open up a random replay pack and pick a series that looks like it might have some potential. But this time, Kalazur sent me a message, not on WhatsApp, not on Discord, but on Skype. He tagged me and said, Kevin, Game 3 between Oliveira and Stats. Dang it, I already spoiled who it is. Well, Game 3 between Oliveira and Stats is one of the sickest games. You have to put this on HarstemCasts. Now, if Kalazur recommends something to you, you do it. This is not a guy that usually gives any recommendations. Most of his Skype messages are, well, very different to me. So I took this serious immediately. However, getting the replay wasn't so easy. I had to message Wardi for it, and Wardi doesn't actually like me. He just pretends to like me so he can associate with Lowko as well, because he knows that I'm tight with Lowko. And if you're in with Lowko and you're in StarCraft 2, you know, life is going to be quite good. Now, I'm not saying that Lowko is the king of the Illuminati, because the king of the Illuminati has nothing on Lowko, all right? Lowko is much, much above that. Lowko is the co-founder of the Freemasons as well. Some people have said that he did have something to do with the corona pandemic. We can't confirm or deny that. All I'm saying is that if you want to get something done in StarCraft 2, all right, you better have Lowko on your side. That's what I have. So I put some pressure on Wardi, telling him that Lowko is going to beat him up if he doesn't send me the replay. And after a week and a half of negotiating with the British caster, I finally got this replay. So it took me a long time to get this. This replay is now over a week and a half old, but it is still, well, hopefully it's going to be very good. If I went through all this trouble just for Kalazur to give me one of the worst games in the world, I'm going to be very, very upset. But there will be nothing that I can do, of course. This Kalazur is very powerful and strong. He can beat me up if he wants to. All right, here we go. Adept shades across the map. As we have a... well, what is this? What is this battery? I don't know what this battery positioning is. We'll get to that later. Cyclone is out here. This was a very quick Cyclone. Fast factory. Really fast factory with an even quicker Cyclone. This must have been a gas first. Gas first with a factory before the command center. It's the only thing that makes any sense. Now, this battery positioning is so interesting because it doesn't actually cover anything. It doesn't really cover the top part here. It covers a part of the mineral line. I'm very confused. Just really confused by this setup. I'm loving this backwards walling, though, that Stats is going for. I think this is something that a lot of these Protoss players aren't doing quite yet, but against the new Cyclone, having your gateways in front very often is more of a liability than an asset. Oh, Adept in a bit of trouble. It's going to move back into battery range right now. Cyclone's taking a bit of a beating. I think Super Battery will need to be activated. Can be done right about now. I'm surprised that Oliveira decides to focus on this Stalker rather than focusing on anything else. Will force out the overcharge, as these Marines are gonna take another couple of hits here, right on the face. Cyclone goes down as well. Super Battery still active. Oliveira's kind of throwing this. I think he had a really good position. He just needed to move back and then kind of take it from there. One more Stalker will get taken out. This Stalker will also die. But as these gateways are finishing up, 3-gate Stalker production will be the saving grace here for Stats. Stats wants to throw down a robotics facility as well. And honestly, Oliveira's early game, it looked okay, and resources lost looks fine-ish, but he went factory before CC. And during all of this, Stats was just producing workers. He's gonna get a really fast third base as well, which is cool to see. He's getting, well, a relatively late robotics facility. Double gases. I'm feeling like this might transition into a Colossus build order. That's kind of the setup I'm feeling. It could also still be a Templar Archive, but if it were to be a Templar Archives, I feel like the Templar Archives would have already been thrown down, right? There's nothing stopping Stats from building a Templar Archive right now. Well, there is something stopping him from building a Robobay, and that's the fact that the facility isn't quite done yet. What is Oliveira doing behind all of this? He produced 2 tanks. He's getting a couple of mines out behind all of this as well. And now the question is, ooh, that's a fast forge. All right. We're gonna keep an eye on the activities in that forge. In my mind, the forge is much, much too quick. You want a sentry. You probably want 1 or 2 observers. And you want to start your thermal lance as well as a Colossus the moment your Robo Bay finishes. I don't think the gas is going to be quite there for that. That's why often with these Blink into Colossus builds, we see a delay on the Forge. We get it post 4 gateways, after the thermal lance has already started. Stats is really committing hard into a higher gateway count, cutting some workers out for it as well. All of this very surprising. Look, no cash right now available for thermal lance, not quite. Can't really warp in a 2nd sentry either, which I don't think would necessarily be a luxury to have against a Terran army. If you're playing Colossus, it's really nice to have a higher sentry count. Thermal lance does start now. There's just not a whole lot of gas available here, so Stalker count and sentry count will remain low as more and more Zealots are being warped in. Now, the moment you're building Zealots, people need to be aware of this, you're basically building units that are going to be fighting, that are going to be dying. The Stalker is a unit that can blink away, that has range advantage, it can often fight in range of a battery defensively. With Zealots, you're kind of setting yourself up for losing units, because the Zealot, it charges forward, that's how it deals damage, and then it often dies as well. Double drop now heading in towards a straight line in towards the main base. Is going to get spotted by this beautifully positioned observer here. Stats, great play. I wonder if this is going to unload, move into the natural, or go straight towards the main. Stats only in position with 2 Stalkers. It's not quite going to be ready for this. This is a solid move though here. As Oliveira moves in. Blink forward. Stats going to get a big shot on one of these medevacs. Will not, however, take it out. Good early game so far for Stats. Good start of the mid game as well for Stats. Stats, one could say, is in a pretty solid spot. The one thing he is missing is a forward base. He's going to work on that right now as this probe is moving over to that forward base location. This map is Golden Ara, by the way, which is a map that has a relatively easy 3, even a relatively easy 4 base setup. But after that, the 5th base is going to be very hard. You're working against good ramp setups or a very far away 5th that just has massive open areas. You have this gold base in the bottom left that gets covered by a watchtower as a mine drop now is heading out in towards the 3rd base. There's no cannon in the 3rd, there's no cannon in the natural. That means that these mines, with an armory available, are going to be kind of difficult here to deal with, as the first 3 mines all get taken out for free. Stats with a quick response. And this medevac is practically useless right now. I am loving this cannon response instantly coming out of Stats in at least the 3rd base. 1 in the main as well. I wouldn't even mind seeing 1 in the natural, just for safety's sake, as this mine also is going to get dropped. And Stats increases his lead over here. Has Stalkers just positioned on the far right side, waiting for a drop to show up there, saying, hey, if you're going to go all the way around, I'll be there waiting for you, my dear friend. I'll be there waiting for you. Stats now moving out on the map, starts Gravitic Drive, the War Prism speed upgrade, and has Double Forges pumping out upgrades. Templar Archives, I'm not a fan. Stats, I'm not a fan at all. Like, whatsoever. The reason for that is that Ghosts are already out. If Ghosts are out and you still have to start producing Archons, Archons usually are not a very worthwhile investment. Low worker count here as well for Stats, who's only on 63 probes right now, as the Cyclone is going to be F2'd back towards the main army at the same time as this Prism is now moving forward. A little bit of a sloppy F2 move there by Oliveira, I just gotta say it. Who, by the way, transitioned into Vikings right after getting, I think, 4 medevacs. Yeah. Prism moves in. Gravitic Drive, of course, is here. Can go for a warp in, but wouldn't even mind if he flies away to make sure that the Vikings can shoot him. Vikings aren't actually moving. At least 1 Viking should be flying over in my mind. This Gravitic Drive Prism can still pick up and piss off. That is exactly what it's going to end up doing here. Viking gets taken out, or at least one of the 2 Vikings gets taken out. 4th base is mining. I think this would be a very solid timing for a 5th base as well. Would not mind that at all. Oliveira is doing a very sloppy job at spotting for this Prism. Look at that. Doesn't quite catch it. It's not the way it's supposed to be, my friend. But it is just the way it is. Mine is moving towards the far right side. Oliveira just lacking a bit of object permanence here. Forgetting about the Prism in the dead space. Disruptors are now being chronoed out. Fifth base, I feel like the fifth is slow. Stats has a slow expansion pattern. Hasn't used his Templar Archives, by the way, and is now getting Dark Templar Blink, which is something that I really do appreciate. And that is a solid move here. Big blink forward as the mine will get taken out. Needs to somehow get rid of these Zealots, though. Zealots really a massive kind of liability in this army. Because the only way that I see a path forward for Oliveira here is if he manages to win a maxed out fight. And Zealots don't really help in maxed out fights. They're great if your opponent isn't maxed. They're great for harassing because they're cheap and they do relatively well on micro. But in a maxed out fight against a Terran army that has Ghost, Marauders and Marines and maybe even a couple of mines, they tend to not perform all too well. Stats has lost his prism right now, only killing 2 SCVs. I think he's too low on workers. Imagine he's on 78, 79 workers, 5th base going up. You can go up to 16, 17 gateways in this case already. You're up 2 bases against someone that's on 3. I think adding some gases here is also not a bad call. Maybe even adding a 3rd robotics facility just for that quicker reinforcements. And the one thing that Stats always needs to keep in mind is that he wants to fight on his opponent's side of the map. He wants to fight on the opponent's side of the map so he can easily remax. He can easily get back up to 200 supply with high production. 12 gateways are out. 3-3 is on the way for, well, not both players, because we see Oliveira's only getting +3 attack. Is skipping out on the armor upgrades. It's not the biggest deal for Terran. Of course, attack upgrades if you have a Marine is much more important. But it still can help a little bit having those armor upgrades. Brock's now being taken out as the 4-base defensive setup for Oliveira is good. Oliveira pretty sick as well when it comes to these late game setups. And he almost feels like he's crawling slowly but surely into the late game. I guess most crawling is kind of slow. But there are some babies that can crawl at very high speeds. Very high speed. I wonder if there's ever been like crawling competition. You know, who can crawl the quickest. Like for adults as well, not just for babies. Be messed up there, like babies race against each other. I bet it would get some views on YouTube though. As these Colossus are absolutely being destroyed, and this is pretty much the issue that I was describing earlier, is that if you have an army that consists of so many Zealots, is that you don't tend to trade too efficiently. Now these Disruptors, the only thing remaining, oh my god, that snipe on the Disruptor, which was about to hit a big purification, oh, it was really big. Oliveira does get to stay alive for now. He's still behind, but in resources lost is now up. Lost his ghost count. And has removed the pressure from him a little bit. I think he can even move on the map if he wants to. He's not doing that quite yet, but I think he could. I really think he could. Yeah, 4 more gates on the way, so we're really starting to reach that higher gateway count, going up to 16. I still feel like the worker count is too low for that though, as you see 5 workers being produced at a time. Stats is doing all of these moves a little bit late. I think this could have all been done much quicker here. Stats sends in another attack. At this point I'm not so confident anymore in Stats' position. He should still be ahead because his income is quite good. He has a 5th base, he has a 6th on the way. And I like his overall production setup. I like his upgrades more obviously as well. This is only 4 Disruptors though. These are a lot of DTs though. Is that enough to... I think that might be enough to 3-hit. But with a Liberator and a Mine there, I think that is safe. At the same time, we see a bit of a flank being set up here. Big EMP is connecting with all 4 Disruptors. As Stats is not going to get a single Disruptor shot in. He's losing his entire army in a bit of an idiotic way, to be quite honest. In a bit of an idiotic way. Purification Ovas. Going to connect with a Marauder and a Marine there. I'm just not so sure if... like, all of these fights have been going really poor for Stats. He's now down 5k in resources lost. Didn't get the kill on this base either with the DTs. It's the Mine and the Liberator were definitely enough. To me, it just kind of feels like this is... it just ain't looking too good for Stats anymore. Oliveira is just... He's really just crawling to a victory. 16 units get warped in at a time, but gateway units are just very bad. You need Disruptors, and you need a higher Disruptor count than 4. 4 doesn't cut it. I usually say that the minimum of disruptors against a maxed out Terran army tends to be like 6 or 7. This fight initially is going quite well. The Liberators weren't sieged up, mines weren't in position either, but at the end of the day, what do you really kill? You push back your opponent, but there's no actual kills. That's a big blink forward here. Purification Nova now being used as a zoning tool. 2 being sent out at the same time. Control out of Oliveira hasn't been perfect, but once again it's good enough as 10 more Zealots and 4 more Stalkers get warped in over here. Stats is heavily bleeding out units though. And if this 5th base gets set up here, I think Stats is in a world of trouble. There's 89 army supply right now for Oliveira. I don't quite know where it is located. We have a lot in bunkers, Liberators, mines. We have a random tank, another mine. All of this could be used defensively here, but Oliveira doesn't even really need it. All he needs is this tiny little army with the medevacs and backup of a planetary. There's 2 more observers that could get scanned over here. I hope Oliveira sees that. And he doesn't quite. He's gonna let them escape. There's 3 observers still out on the map. There's 11 mines. And that's so many freaking mines, isn't it? There's a couple of... What is this tank doing? And no one really knows. Love to see it. And I think Oliveira now is being a bit too aggressive here. There's no Ghost in this army. And Ghost really is key to have against any type of gateway army. Specifically against Zealots. It's so freaking powerful. Mine hadn't burrowed quite yet either, as Oliveira for the first time I think in this game is now officially kind of ahead. He's been ahead in supply before, but now I think he's ahead in every possible way. And as I say that, he starts losing units left, right and center. Ends up losing, well, 2 Liberators there pretty much for free. As we have a big scan coming out of Oliveira, he realizes how grim his economical position looked for majority of the time. But there's no base top right yet. There's no base bottom left. That means Oliveira's only down 1 base, and that's not so bad for Terran. So right now, Terran up 6k in resources lost. Another 11 Zealots are being warped in. These Zealots, oh my god, just getting hit by mines in the face over here. Extremely painful as Stats. Just kind of taking... a pretty poor fight there at the start. Now we see some Zealots actually connecting with the Marauders. And maybe with 1 more warp in, something can be done here. Disruptors need to stay alive. It's very important here for these Disruptors to stay alive, as the Ghost count is growing. And the medevacs still seem to kind of have enough energy. Well, they don't. They're pretty much empty now. Mine's still set up as well. There's 1 more Purification Nova available. It's going to get used here. It's not going to connect with that mine. As these Zealots is running into a bunker. Mine in the back's now going to get a Disruptor kill. It's at the same time Oliveira once again stabilizes. I'm not quite sure what's kicking off over here. I would love to see some harassment coming out of Oliveira, and indeed we do see that as a Liberator makes its way across the map. This can just help so much in relieving a bit of pressure. Saying, hey, you're being very aggressive. Now it's time for you to be a little bit more defensive. And just this 1 Liberator, you know, it forces out a response. If Oliveira's quick, he can keep the Lip alive. I think he was too slow there. I do believe he's going to lose that if Stats pays attention. And of course Stats pays attention, because he's a very solid player. 6 bases, still mining for Stats. Needs to start working towards a 7th though. Once again, Oliveira scanning that right side base. Like, hey, if you don't have that yet, aren't you just in a little bit of trouble? Aren't you just in a little bit of trouble, as we're lacking medevac count? Everything here is empty. Every stim hurts. Like a knife in the back from your best friend. That's what every stim is right now. Except it's just drugs straight into your veins. I hate to see it here if you're a Terran fan. This army is already in the yellow a little bit. As another stim gets used. Disruptor count once again just fairly low. That means that all of these shots need to hit. First shot hits, second shot whiffs. Well, the Disruptor gets killed. Command Center does get taken out, and 3 Disruptors stay alive. I feel like Stats is way too keen on losing Disruptors, which is not something you should be very keen on. You know, usually actually kind of want to keep them alive. It's a key concept, is if you have a unit that gets better over time, or that deals damage over time, it's nice to keep it alive. There's no actual advanced ballistics. That means that this can be dealt with relatively easily by just 3 Stalkers blinking in. Fusion core ain't here yet, +2 ship weapons isn't here yet. Oliveira's still kind of paying the price for having crappy eco earlier on, and as a result is just down in these types of upgrades. Didn't have the cash flow really to afford all of that. Now he could technically go into that fusion core. He's nearing max. Has a good army here with 5 Ghosts, 27 Marines, 14 Marauders, and 15 Mines. As a couple of mines are here at the front. Once again, stats. He's not using these disruptors optimally. Oh, that's an okay shot, but he's down 70 supply right now. And I'm actually starting to become a little bit afraid for stats here. It is the third time this base gets scanned, and this time he does see that there's indeed a nexus going up. Oliveira takes the other side neutral base and immediately rotates towards that top. I think this is the hallmark of a good player, really. Is saying, hey, there's a base there that is so far spread out from where your core army is. How can you defend that against a Terran army? And I think the honest answer is stats can't. And that means that this base, which is going to be very vital to keep up his income, is going to get taken out here. That does kind of perhaps give an opportunity here, open up a door, where one door closes, another one opens, and perhaps the door of killing the gold also opens up for stats right now. This is still a significant bioforce. That one mine actually hitting a lot of Terran units. We see this army kiting back towards the planetary, which is obviously a good move. I'd love to see an attack being set up towards the right side, except that there's no ghost in this army. Even just a single ghost would be super helpful here. It's not quite the case. There's only a single ghost out on the map. I think that Oliveira is a bit too eager here to fight. It seems like a massive error. He's going to lose this army. Now he's trying to retreat. This prism, it's so important that this gets spotted. I hope it does. And right now it doesn't. As the Zealot Stalker force moves towards his third base location, there's still a lot of disruptors out. Oliveira with a mistake there. Definitely with a mistake. Purification Nova coming in. Is going to connect. Is going to connect. Yes, it's going to connect. We still have a couple left over. If these disruptors can escape, that would be huge. At the same time, Zealot Stalker here now attacking this command center as Oliveira continues to fight here in the middle of the map. We've had near constant action in the past 4 or 5 minutes. Bases going down left, right, and center. As long as the gold base is up for Oliveira, I think he's in a playable position. The problem for him right now is that he's lacking gas. He's not mining from any refineries over here on this forward base. That is an issue because he needs ghost. Without the ghost, you can't fight the Protoss force. Here comes a move forward. Snipes 2 disruptors instantly. Solid control there from our Chinese Terran player. Stalkers kind of semi-idling, taking out a refinery. No gas is being taken quite yet on this forward base. I really think this should have the priority right now. It's hard to give that a priority, however, if you're under such heavy siege like Oliveira is over here. But he has the mineral income as long as he keeps the gold alive. He's just going to need some ghost. If he can get any amount of ghost out right now, that would be phenomenal. And even getting Marines right now to afford ghost might be a good call, because there are no real splash units out. There's the Disruptor, but the Disruptor isn't necessarily better against Marines. It's good against Ghosts, it's good against Marauders, it's good against everything. There's no Colossus, there's no Storm, there's no Archons. And those units are good against Marines. That's the reason why you often don't see Marines, and also because Marauders are pretty boosto, but we'll talk about that another time. We have a big blink forward. Can we get a Purification Nova coming in here? 1, 2. It's going to connect with some of these SCVs. Big blink in. He needs the recall. He's going to lose all of these Stalkers. If he ain't careful, even if he is careful, he might lose all of them. Good blinking back, though. Somehow going to kind of win this fight. Salad Flank coming in from the side as well. So we're now in a situation where the incomes have moved just a bit closer. The orbital command count. Orbital command. What's this called? Just orbital command? Yeah, orbital command. There's 2 of them. That's not a whole lot. That's not a whole lot. Still no ghost being produced, which I think is the incorrect play. Ooh, big blink forward. We'll get the mines down before the mines get to shoot. See how low these medevacs are as well. They can't even heal properly. I'm honestly shocked here that Oliveira just continues playing without Ghost here. And he has been playing without Ghost for the past 3.5 minutes. This seems to me like a blunder of a significant size. Salad Stalker's now moving forward. Purification Nova is going to connect with the mine as well as the Marauder. Can we get a shot in over here? Yes, we can. Stalkers blink towards the far right side. Archons moving in as well. These mines will get taken out. Good fight for Oliveira somehow, some way, even without Ghost. But his army is now getting overstimmed. Archons do not quite get the connections that they want. Stalkers targeting down Medevacs here, which is an interesting call, saying, hey, you're gonna stim yourself to death. This Nexus is going up. This Orbital's trying to fly over. This is an insane game with almost constant action for the past, well, 5, 6, 7 minutes right now. Such an overstimmed army. These Medevacs don't have any chance of regaining their energy. Right now, getting the energy upgrade for the Medevac might actually be worth it. It's the first time where I'm like, yeah, this is the type of game where it would have been real good to have. But he doesn't. This Nexus in some trouble. Purification Nova will get shot forward. Nexus goes down. There's one more Disruptor shot. It's going to connect with 4 or 5 Marauders. As this fight will go the way of Oliveira, I guess. Still has a lot of Medevacs available. Needs to try and take this. I don't understand why he didn't chase there for a second longer. That seemed to me like a blunder. It's all about this gold base right now. The person that gets the gold base wins as the DT takes out a mining base. There's nothing defending here. Oliveira with a scan towards the far right once more. As these Purification Novas moving in. And this is such a moment where you have to pull back. You just use your Disruptor shots, run away. Like this is the time to run. Blinks in forward. Tries to save the Disruptor. Succeeds. Needs to give up these Zealots right now and piss back off. Well, he's going to come in with more Purification Novas. This might be a mistake. He's going to lose one of these Disruptors before anything happens. Second Disruptor doesn't get sniped. Good splits, though. 81 supply to 77. 46 army supply to 28. What in the world is going on over here? If this Orbital dies, that is it for the mining of Oliveira's stats. He's long distance mining from this gold. Has a single patch over here. Has 4 patches that are running out. 2 patches in here. He's out of patches right now. He's out of patches. And this base is going down. Poof. Purification Novas almost connecting with the entirety of the army. Still completely overstimmed. Orbital Command's gonna get taken out. No, lifts up. SCVs will get the repair. And this game makes absolutely 0 sense. This game makes absolutely 0 sense. This is unbelievable. As we have is this a blink for? No, what is this? He's moving back, he's moving in. 30 army supply to 26. Boom! He's gonna hit an SCV and a mine as it survives with 3 HP. I mean, there's a lot of mines. I think the army supply is... Oh, what did it mine? Did the observer just die? I think it did. What is it? This orbital's still alive as well. That's actually a pretty big deal. So that means we're gonna have some mining. If there's no observer here, that could be bad. Okay, no, there is an observer. One more Marine gets taken out. Big stim forward. And there's just no energy on these medevacs. There's just no energy left on these medevacs. And I think that probably should be technically it. 7 Stalkers and 1 Zealot versus 2 Marauders and 1 Marine. These mines can chase, but they can't kill. The long distance mining stats over here is making it happen. It's gonna have to blink out of... Yep, there we go. Takes out all of these mines. Oliveira still at 450 APM. Taps out. And Stats wins an absolutely crazy game. Now, I'm not quick to call a game of the year. I think I've only done it twice so far this year. Yeah, it's not bad because we're in October already, you know? But I think this might be it. I actually think this might be the game of the year. Was it the highest level game that I've seen all year? No. Was it the most action-packed game I've seen in the entire year? I think if we look at the second part, I think the answer is yes. I think we've literally been fighting for 12 minutes straight. This game was absolutely bonkers. Golden Aura providing a banger of a game, and well, these players providing a banger of a game. But really, let's talk about the role of the map just for a second. I know this is not interesting for most of you, but I often see that maps that have very pronounced neutral bases, so bases that are super hard to hold, kind of get to these types of games more often, is what I feel like. Because they're so important and they're so far out in the open, people are forced to really fight around them. Even if the early stages are a bit more calm, I think these really hard neutral bases, they tend to provide very good gameplay. And that's what we saw here as well. I really, big credits to the map maker for putting this in. It's gold in the bottom left, this blue mineral base here in the top right. Fantastic, absolutely phenomenal game here. Really, really great play, and Stats pulling it out of there. Thanks to Calazur as well for suggesting this. And of course for Wardi for sending me the replay after faltering under Lowko's pressure. So yeah, that's going to be it for me today. Thanks all so much for watching. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. More bangers coming up. Bye bye.